Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one and only Padawan J.
Oh, boy.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss, so let's waste no more time. Hashtag ODPH if you're joining us on social media, and I hope you do, because we want you to interact with us and join the conversation. The big news of the week has to be the MLB trade deadline has now officially come and passed.
Yep.
What is the fallout, Pad?
Boy, oh boy, it's a fun time if you're a baseball fan, especially if you are a team that is in contention, on the cusp of contention. You're just missing that one piece to really put it all together and give you a big old push towards October, because deals were flying left, right, and center faster than a Giancarlo Stanton home run.
Break it down for us.
So going through the list here, thanks to the baseball subreddit on reddit.com, just running through the list top to bottom. Boston received second baseman Ian Kinsler from the Los Angeles Angels for right-handed pitcher Ty Buttery, and then left-handed pitcher William Jerez. This was very intriguing to me when I saw it last night, because up until this point, I didn't realize Pedroia was out for Boston.
He's been having his injury issues. I know that. I mean, he's been kind of having a very quiet year when he's been in there. But I mean, when you think about Boston, he is arguably up there, like maybe one of the faces of the franchise. Yeah. He's been a great player for him throughout the years. This move, I think, is just more or less an insurance move, but it's a great one. Kinsler is a heck of a bat.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, that can only help that lineup, which, I mean, does not need a lot of help. But going to the postseason, I mean, you definitely need some, extra incentive, so to speak.
Right, and I guess this shows Boston isn't 100% convinced that Pedroia is going to be 100% going forward for the immediate future in the playoffs. So, Kinsler, good backup if Pedroia cannot play.
Like I said, it's just more of an incentive base that you're going to be covered going into the finals. And, I mean, Boston, hey, you got to give them their due. They should be winning the AL East and then going into the postseason, unless some colossal collapse happens, but I don't see that happening.
Yep. Moving on, Houston received right-handed pitcher Roberto Osuna from the Toronto Blue Jays, who received right-handed pitcher Ken Giles, also right-handed pitcher Hector Perez, and right-handed pitcher David Paulino.
Okay.
Atlanta traded to the Cincinnati Reds right-handed pitcher Lucas Sims, outfielder Preston Tucker, right-handed pitcher Matt Wilsler, and in turn, Atlanta received outfield/first baseman Adam Duvall.
Okay.
Pittsburgh received right-handed pitcher Keon Keela from the Texas Rangers, who received left-handed pitcher Taylor Hearn and a player to be named later.
All right, the dreaded player to be named later.
Yep. Seattle received Adam Warren from the New York Yankees, who received international bonus money from the Seattle Mariners.
All right, so explain to our listeners the international bonus money.
Yeah, this threw me for a loop, because this was like one of 3 trades the Yankees made where they sent players, 2 of which I'd never heard of in my life, to one of them was to St. Louis, the other one was to Chicago, and in turn they received international bonus money. Basically what happens is you have a player come from overseas, and like a Masahiro Tanaka, like a Daisuke Matsuzaka from years ago, and teams basically have to bid for the right to negotiate with this player to sign him. Highest bid wins. You remember when Daisuke got posted, it was like a $50 million. Just to talk to him. I remember. Just to talk to him. So that, international bonus money is basically used to bid to talk to these players. So it's always good to have a stockpile of this, just because if it's a good enough prospect, or the outlook on this prospect is high, asking price is going to be high on this guy.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, especially if you're going to the international markets and you're trying to recruit the best talent possible, to get them to join Major League Baseball is going to cost. And I mean, it's been crazy, because I remember the Daisuke deal was through the roof at the time.
It was like $50+ million just to talk to him.
Yeah.
That wasn't even what he signed for.
Oh, I know. It was incredible. I mean, just to think about that again.
Right. And of course, the Yankees used said money to sign the name escapes me, but it was a highly rated Cuban pitching prospect. So we'll see if that works out. Also, the Yankees traded with the Minnesota Twins. They sent first baseman Tyler Austin and right-handed pitcher Luis Rio to Minnesota, and in turn received right-handed pitcher Lance Lynn.
Okay.
Now, I know a lot of Yankee fans are going, wow, why do we trade Austin? Why do we trade for Lance Lynn? Looking at the numbers and you could say this with a couple of the trades the Yankees made. It's a little puzzling. But if you look at the numbers they have against both Boston and Houston, they have good numbers against Boston and Houston. They're setting up for Boston and Houston. I think Lance Lynn this year in 2 starts against Boston has 11 innings pitched, like a 1.6 something ERA, and opponents are batting like 220 against the guy.
That's an interesting strategy the Yanks are going with, because you're kind of hedging your bets that Boston is going to be facing you and Houston's going to be facing you. You're almost discounting everything else from the playoffs.
Right.
And as we've seen, you don't exactly know for sure who you're going to be facing.
Exactly.
The right team gets hot at the right time, it could be a lot of
What was it? A number of years ago, it was Colorado went on that crazy 22 out of 25 game win streak or whatever and made the playoffs. You never know.
I mean, yeah, even look at the Yankees last year.
Oh, yeah.
Because they well overachieved for what they should have done.
Oh, yeah. Plus, I look at this as they need, to shore up the pitching staff, because you looked at the first half of the season or the first quarter of the season where one of their bright spots was, look at the depth they have in their pitching staff. They've got the guys in the bullpen. They've got all these guys in the starting rotation. They've got Jordan Montgomery. They've got Domingo Herrera, they've got this guy. Now, you go through the list of guys that, at the start of the season, Tanaka had his injury. Domingo Germán is down at AAA and injured, I believe. It's just a laundry list that, you need to shore up the pitching staff. On the off chance that, hey, somebody's not pitching well, we need to get somebody else in there.
Yeah, you need to have as much depth in pitching going into the postseason as you possibly can. And especially in the AL, which is going to be just a fight for whoever gets there. I mean, barring any colossal injury collapses or something in that variation, to load up on pitching is going to help them in long term, no matter what team it is.
And plus, having a great bullpen is not exactly a bad thing to have in the postseason. Let's not forget the Kansas City Royals won the World Series a couple of years ago on a fantastic bullpen.
Oh, their bullpen the year they won the series, it was incredible. Absolutely lights out.
Yep. Moving on, the Seattle Mariners also made another move where they traded Ryan Costello, first baseman / third baseman, to the Minnesota Twins, and also right-handed pitcher Chase De Jong. In return, they received from Minnesota left-handed pitcher Zach Duke, and then they also received cash.
Okay.
Moving on, Tampa Bay received outfielder Tommy Pham and international bonus money from the St. Louis Cardinals, who in turn received left-handed pitcher Genesis Cabrera, outfielder Justin Williams, and right-handed pitcher Roel Ramirez.
Solid deal.
Yep. Moving on, this one happened today. The Cleveland Indians received outfielder Leonis Martin, apologies if I butchered that name, and right-handed pitcher Kyle Dowdy from the Detroit Tigers. Detroit, in turn, received shortstop Willie Castro. Moving on, this one kind of surprised me. Returning home, if you will, for return to where he pitched for a couple of years. Arizona made a trade with the Miami Marlins. Arizona received right-handed pitcher Brad Ziegler. And in turn, Miami received right-handed pitcher Tommy Eveld. Now, this one was interesting because I know there was maybe about a solid hour or so where Mark Feinsand of MLB Network was kind of reporting that the Yankees and several other teams were in the mix for Brad Ziegler, but ended up going to Arizona.
Interesting.
Yep. Seattle made a trade with the Miami Marlins as well. They sent infielder Bryson Brigman and international bonus money to Miami, who in turn sent outfielder Cameron Maybin to the Seattle Mariners. Now, this one was also interesting because Yankees were looking for an outfielder, just to shore up the outfield and to fill in for the time Judge on the disabled list. I know Cameron Maybin was one of them. They were also looking at Andrew McCutchen, and there was a third one.
Curtis Granderson, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, Curtis Granderson was another one, but nothing ended up working out, so... moving on, this one was also interesting. Tampa Bay sent catcher Wilson Ramos, who was named to the All-Star team this past year but couldn't participate due to injury. So that was interesting. And then, in turn, Philly sent a player to be named later back to Tampa Bay. Chicago made a trade with the Washington Nationals. They sent right-handed pitcher John Romero, and in turn, Chicago got Brandon Kintzler. This one was interesting because I know there was talk for all of 12 hours last night that Bryce Harper was available for trade.
That was probably the most shocking move, I think, of the trade deadline talk. That Harper was on the market. I mean, the window was very small.
Yep.
But I think Washington made the right decision. And I'll break it down like this. I think either way, they did the right thing. Because if you're going to get rid of the face of your franchise... you had better get a king's ransom in return.
So you would have to get like what the Yankees got a couple years ago when they traded Aroldis Chapman. They got a lot of top prospects.
Oh, absolutely. You would need a deal bigger than that, I would even say.
Yes.
Like, I think if the Yankees were going to make that move,
they'd have to dump the farm system.
I think they would dump Frazier, Sheffield, and
top 10 guys would be gone.
Yeah. I think that they would have just completely reloaded Washington's farm system.
Yeah.
Just to get Harper. But I was, kind of happy to see this, that he didn't go anywhere, just because I think unless it was a team he was going to stay with, that is one expensive rental player.
Right.
And I know that there was talk. I think Cleveland was looking into him.
Yep.
I think Arizona was at one point.
Dodgers, I think, were at least mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple teams thrown around that if he was really going to go somewhere, you need to make sure that you have him locked up. I mean, the Dodgers took a risk with Machado, so I didn't think he was going to wind up there just because I think there have been a lot to dump off their farm system.
Well, and plus they're already deep into the luxury tax, which would only adding Harper would only push it further.
And I think the Yankees were trying to avoid that. I mean, plus, they're still having issues. I mean, obviously when Judge comes back,
that's the thing is Harper plays right field. You don't need a third right fielder on that team.
Exactly. That they would need to convert either Judge, Stanton, or Harper to first base as a regular first base. That's a lot to ask.
Oh yeah,
and especially for those guys, I don't see where the move would have made sense.
No, that's why when they was being reported or at least rumored that they were looking at Curtis Granderson for the Yankees, that one made far more sense to me because you have Judge, who is young enough that unless it's like a day after a night game or it's a day-night doubleheader or something akin to that, it's a late game and then the next game you got to travel in the game the next day. If you got a late game that goes to 11:30 or whatever at night in extras, and then you got to travel and the next game's at like 1:00 and he doesn't play, he's gonna play every day. And when he doesn't play, you can just plug Stanton in there. So getting Curtis Granderson made far more sense to me because, okay, there's your center field or left field backup if Hicks needs a day off, if Gardner needs a day off. And it's a short outfielder. You don't got to worry about his outfielding ability. And he's a good bat in the lineup, and he loves playing in New York.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, the Harper move, I just don't think obviously would have panned out long term.
No.
And I mean, off season could be a lot of different things too. I know that obviously because of his stature and I guess how much his contract he's rumored to be looking for, there's only going to be a handful of teams involved. I still think he winds up with Chicago at the end of the day. He's going to be a Cub.
Probably.
That's my gut feeling. But to see him stay in Washington, and then if Washington can maybe next season, if they make a commitment to building a team around him to really contend, he might stay. I don't know. That's going to be arguably the hottest story to talk about in the offseason concerning.
Oh, yeah.
So
moving on, Philly made a trade with the Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto received a player to be named later. Philly received left-handed pitcher Aaron Loup. Atlanta Braves made a trade with the Baltimore Orioles, who continued their fire sale. Atlanta received right-handed pitcher Kevin Guzman, right-handed pitcher Darren O'Day. In turn, Baltimore received catcher Brett Cumberland, right-handed pitcher Evan Phillips, left-handed pitcher Bruce Zimmerman, infielder John Carlos Encarnacion, and then $2.5 million in international bonus money. This one was surprising. The Minnesota Twins did a trade with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Twins sent infielder Brian Dozier, veteran second baseman Brian Dozier, to the Dodgers, who in turn sent infielder Logan Forsythe, outfielder Luke Raley, and then left-handed pitcher Devin Smeltzer to the Minnesota Twins. The Pittsburgh Pirates made a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. Pittsburgh sent right-handed pitcher Tyler Glasnow, outfielder Austin Meadows, and a player to be named later to Tampa, who in turn sent right-handed pitcher Chris Archer to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Thank God the Yankees didn't get him.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
You look at the numbers. I know a lot of fans, well, not a lot of fans, a good number of fans wanted to see Chris Archer in the Bronx. Looking at the stats, I don't understand it. He's not good in the stadium. He's not good against Boston. He's not good against Houston. I just don't understand it.
It didn't really make a ton of sense. I know. I think it was just the name and just really, if you're a Boston or Yankee fan, it's almost, who can build a bigger all-star team. So I think it was just the name value was really trying to push that deal. Yeah. But I mean, I'm like you, Pat. I'm really glad I didn't see it. I didn't really see the need for it.
Well, and plus there was rumor and talk during the week leading up to the trade deadline that Tampa was basically going to ask for Justice Sheffield, the Yankees' number 1 ranked prospect, which I'm like, no, please.
Yeah, I just didn't really see the long-term effect of that deal.
No.
I mean, it's great as as a rental, so to speak, but long-term, I just don't see where that would pan down. Especially if Sheffield is as good as they say, bring him up, and let him get a shot at the main roster.
Yeah,
that's the one thing. If you have the highly touted prospects, I know Toronto has this situation with Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
They have to find a way to bring him up there, but
right, he's behind Donaldson, so there's your issue.
You're going to have an issue there, but unless you can convince somebody to play another position. Same thing with Sheffield in a sense, because where he wants to pitch, you have to find room for him, and I don't know where you do that per se. You're gonna have to. That's gonna be an off-season thing, but unless they bring him up for the postseason roster,
maybe.
There's always possibility of that.
Yeah. Rounding out the final 3 trades we got here, Arizona made a trade with the Texas Rangers. Arizona sent right-handed pitcher Wei Che Huang to Texas, who in turn sent left-handed pitcher Jake Diekman. And then the LA Dodgers made a trade with the Toronto Blue Jays. The Dodgers sent right-handed pitcher Corey Cooping. And then the Blue Jays sent right-handed pitcher John Axford. And then lastly, Milwaukee Brewers did a trade with the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore received right-handed pitcher Luis Ortiz, infielder Gene Carmona, and then infielder Jonathan Villar. And then in turn, Milwaukee received infielder Jonathan Scoop.
So who do you think really won the trade deadline?
I think looking back at it, the Yankees definitely made a splash in the bullpen, having added Zach Britton, adding basically a 4th or 5th closer to that bullpen, and just making it absolutely even if the starter and the Yankees make the postseason, starter, let's just say we have another Luis Severino situation like last year. Mm-hmm. He doesn't make it out of the first inning. You've got the bullpen who can back it up, and then arguably if the pitcher doesn't make it out of the 5th inning, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th are locked down.
I think they did a lot of good moves getting Britton, and I think that the J.A. Happ deal, too, has really, given them some stability at that position.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that they did good. I think Boston made a good move, too.
Oh, yeah.
The Kinsler move, I really think is going to help them long term. And especially if Pedroia does not come back to Pedroia form, which is still to be determined, Kinsler is more than willing to fill in those shoes.
I'll say the only other one that stood out to me was the Dodgers, because it felt like every other trade. Oh, Dodgers got this person. Dodgers got that person. Okay.
The Dodgers have been very smart about it, and they've built a very good team out west that I know us on the East Coast, we don't see that often.
No.
But they have made enough moves that they should be in the contention for the NL title for a long time. Mm-hmm. I was kind of more surprised I didn't see Baltimore unload more players.
That was what everyone kind of figured was going to happen.
I figured Adam Jones would be moved. I as a Baltimore Oriole fan, you got to say losing him and Machado, that would have been absolutely crushing. Mm-hmm. But I was surprised that he actually stayed, because I know that there was a lot of talk, especially heavily talking about him going to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I thought that would have made perfect sense if he did wind up out there. But as a fan, if you can try re-signing and keeping your core players and building a team around them to contend, that's always a plus. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, teams can start doing that if they haven't done it already. But it's going to be something interesting to watch. But like we say in follow up here, I thought the Yankees had a great trade deadline moves. I thought they did great. I thought Boston did great, and I thought the Dodgers did great.
Yep.
Let us know what you think, though. Hashtag ODPH. Let us know what you think of the MLB moves that your team has done. We want to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH, and we have to recap UFC on Fox 30.
Boy, oh boy, did they stack this card for Calgary.
They did. And we briefly mentioned about the bad luck that they had at the last Calgary card.
A little bit.
This one made up for it and then some.
Uh-huh.
Great night of fights. Albeit, though, I heard the ratings were not that high, which I don't understand because the card was stacked and the fights delivered.
I mean, the only thing I can think of, it's, getting towards the middle part of the summer. A lot of families are probably going on vacation. A lot of kids are going back to school soon, so they're getting in that one last bit of family vacation time away, out at the beach, out at Disney or something like that. So that could be why.
It could be why, but, nevertheless, I watched. I was happy with what I saw, so let's break it down. The first fight on the main card was Alexander Hernandez versus Oliver Aubin-Mercier. Now, this one, Hernandez had a lot of hype behind him. He was the one that he did the kind of fake out to touch gloves and just completely tore through his opponent. So he's ranked number 13, if I'm not mistaken, in the lightweight division. This one was more of a challenge for him. Mercier definitely held his own, and they were doing a lot of ground grappling. This one definitely was not a lot of, I would say, flashy strikes, but Hernandez really showed he could go into deep water, so to speak. This is the first time we've really seen him challenged. I had it on my scorecard 29-28 for Hernandez. The judges agreed with me, except one gave it 30-27.
Okay.
But it was just Hernandez had constant pressure. He almost reminded me of how Colby Covington fought in his last fight.
Yes.
He just never let OAM get a chance to really get a good rhythm until, like, in the second round, I think that there was an armbar attempt that OAM had a chance at. But overall, though, I mean, Hernandez, and he was very, very unique in his post-fight interview, too.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't cocky, but he was very confident in his skills, and he was basically saying, like, this fight shouldn't have gone as long as it did. I'm not expecting a title shot after this. I'd like to fight somebody, ranked 6 through 10 in the lightweight division, and I think that that's smart for him.
I'd say at least he's honest.
I mean, yeah, he was very honest. I mean, I know that some people have a very, opinionated idea of him. I mean, I think he goes in there, he backs up what he says, so I can't really fault him.
No.
I just want to see that he gets somebody, granted, I'm trying to think of who would be a good opponent at this range. I mean, me personally, I kind of like to see him for Showtime Pettis. I would like to see that fight. I don't know if they would do that, but, I mean, that's just a name I'm going to throw out there. I think it'd be a great fight for both fighters, and to see where it goes from there, who knows. Side note, though, Bret the Hitman Hart was in attendance for the card.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you know that my WWE fandom was going crazy when I saw the Hitman on screen. But getting back to the fights, though. The next one up was Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Tecia Torres at strawweight division. And Jędrzejczyk fought her fight. There was no question of that. And she won. She got the decision. But it was pretty much Jędrzejczyk is back in the winning ways.
Right.
Torres was definitely trying to do some grappling, trying to, really kind of get octagon control, but Jędrzejczyk was just nailing strikes and defending well. So, I mean, that one was really kind of tough to call, but Jędrzejczyk definitely got back on the fighting ways, or winning ways, rather, and was asking for a title shot next.
Ooh, interesting.
Now, it would make sense, but the only issue I guess I would have with that, and it's a tough position, because the champion is still Rose.
Right.
Well, Rose beat her twice.
Yep.
You can't really make that rematch right away, I guess. I mean,
I get the saying third time's a charm, but I have a hard time swallowing that when you've lost to the champ twice.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And it hasn't...
It's in recent history.
Yeah, it's very recent. So I don't know where you go there.
We'll say if this was 6 months to a year after she'd last fought her and she'd had some good fights and, maybe some knockouts, okay, you can make an argument, but it's so soon after.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's so soon after that it's like, I don't know where you go next. I really don't. But Jędrzejczyk is definitely back in the winning column, and, I mean, she looked great in the fight. There was no question about it. I mean, 81-54 for total strikes thrown.
Wow.
Or connected, rather. I mean, and she was holding her own. I mean, that's the thing. She just was working her striking and just looked like the Joanna of old. So
yeah.
Either way, I mean, that division, I think, was put back on notice that I might not have my belt, but I'm coming for anybody that's in my way to get it.
And she's coming with a vengeance.
Absolutely. Speaking of coming back with a vengeance,
Lord have mercy.
The most scariest liver shot I think I've seen thrown in a long time, and I was surprised who threw it because it wasn't Jeremy Stevens, who I thought who I will say prior to that happening was starting to connect a little bit on Jose Aldo. But Jose Aldo hit him with one of the nastiest liver shots I have seen. and just immediately it was lights out for Stevens.
I know it surprised me because I know I said on last week's show if Jose Aldo was going to win, he was going to kick Jeremy Stevens' leg off and beat him with it.
Oh, absolutely.
So to see Jose Aldo throw a liver shot and drop him, I was surprised to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing about it, that he just really was like, he just caught him at the right place at the right time. Because, I mean, when you get hit with a liver shot, yeah, you're going to go down. Your body just shuts down. That it doesn't matter who you are. If you're hit with the right shot. Yeah, if you're hit with the right shot there, you're dropping. And Stevens, he was winning the fight up to it. I mean, so there's no, like, it wasn't like a runaway fight by any means.
No.
But Aldo did enough to win. And they did mention a really crazy stat. And I didn't realize this until they mentioned it. This was Aldo's first stoppage since 2013.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy because I know that technically that was against Korean Zombie, but if memory serves me right, he popped his shoulder out in that fight.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
So they got to say that because I know he got Mendez with that knee, and I want to say that one was, 2012?
Yeah.
So Aldo, I mean, he looked impressive. He definitely looked like the Aldo of old, which is scary for anybody at the featherweight division.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'd like to see him jump up to lightweight. I really would. I don't want to say his time has passed at featherweight because he's arguably the greatest featherweight of all time.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, though, at this stage, I think lightweight would be the better division for him. It's going to be interesting to see where he kind of fits in the mix there because his featherweight is all, tied up right now. I mean, obviously with Max Holloway, who I hear is on the mend and is saying that he would like to fight by year's end.
Oh, good.
Which is good because I know with this last fight, the health scare there, I mean, it was really getting kind of worried. I know Brian Ortega is in the mix too.
Yep.
There's just so many fighters that are involved in that right now that it's going to be very, very interesting to watch. Then we got to the main event.
Oh, boy.
Which did not disappoint.
Nope.
Any which way, shape, or form. Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier. And this was just crazy. It was just, this is when you tell somebody, okay, this is a fight you need to watch. You need to, don't blink. This delivered.
Oh, yes.
Because both of these guys, I mean, Eddie Alvarez is 100% all heart. His legend in MMA is, based off his never say die attitude. He will be in there until there's a stoppage, either him or somebody else. And I know, obviously, there was some controversy the first time these guys fought. This time around, there really wasn't, except until, like, the second round where there was a ref stoppage for a 12-6 elbow, which hit on, like, the trapezius muscle.
Okay.
So, because they were going back and forth. But once that happened and they stood him back up, that's when Poirier really poured it on. And he looked impressive with that win.
Yeah.
That now, I mean, it's tough to say what's going to happen from here. But in my opinion, I mean, Poirier has, if you look at his past resume, he's beaten Eddie Alvarez technically twice now. He's beaten...
I'll say, I'm looking at his fight record here. He just beat Eddie Alvarez, TKO. He beat Justin Gaethje in April via TKO, and then he beat Anthony Pettis by submission. Before that was no DQ, or no contest. That was the accidental knee to the head, which was messy and just sad to see.
Yeah.
Before that, he beat Jim Miller via decision, and then before that was his loss to Michael Johnson. But that was in 2016.
Yeah, but if you think about it, though, if you look at the pedigree he's beat, I mean, Gaethje, he beat Pettis. He's beaten Alvarez. That's 3 former champions. Albeit, though, Gaethje is from a different organization. But my point is, he's beaten 3 champions.
Yep.
It's hard-pressed not to give him the title shot after, if it's officially made, which, I mean, it was heavily rumored this weekend. But until I see it on UFC.com, I am not buying into it.
Yeah, I think the thing I saw today was it's close, but it's not a done deal.
Yeah, it's not a done deal. And that is Khabib versus Conor McGregor.
Lord have mercy.
Finally, this fight is going to happen. Now,
Hopefully.
It's rumored, though, like we said, it's been heavily rumored October 6th in Vegas. I have not seen official word yet, so I don't want to go jumping the gun just a little bit. I know we mentioned a little bit last week that it was supposed to be a done deal. It has not been finalized.
Right. Now that Conor's whole legal situation is taken care of in New York, he can get to focusing on scheduling his next fight.
Yeah, which I hope they make that fight. That's the only one that really makes a lot of sense right now. But if they can't pull that fight off for whatever reason, you got to put Poirier against Khabib.
Yeah.
You have to. Or you have to give him the winner. I know that there'll be a lot of people saying, well, what about Tony Ferguson?
Because he is technically ranked number 1.
He is.
Technically.
But as a promoter, I'd be a little skeptical right now, I guess, to pair him and Khabib again, because just that fight is cursed for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That somebody gets hurt in training. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you can exactly do that right away. But with Poirier, you got to I'm hard-pressed not to give him that title shot.
Yeah.
I really am.
Well, if I'm with you, because if for whatever reason, and some bizarre left field, 11th hour nonsense, Khabib versus Conor doesn't happen, if memory serves, Dana was not exactly gung-ho to do Tony Ferguson versus Khabib for like the 5th time, because the other however many have never worked out. So if you're not going to make that fight again, well, your number 1 ranked fighter is not going. Number 2 ranked fighter, Conor McGregor, you tried to make, but for whatever reason it didn't work. That would leave Dustin Poirier.
And that makes the most sense. And you know what? Poirier has definitely paid his dues. He's a fighter's fighter. He always comes in there no matter who he's against. He always has a great showing. So I'd make that fight in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And then going into this weekend, though, we're not done with the UFC.
Nope.
There is a very, very big card, UFC 227, 2 title defenses. We'll just kind of tap into a little bit. Henry Cejudo is taking on Demetrius Johnson for the flyweight title. This is a rematch from a previous time. I got to say, until somebody really knocks out DJ, I can't bet against him.
Well, so yeah, he's run through the entire division 2 times, 3 times. Something absurd.
Yeah, I mean, he needs somebody to drop down from 135 to give him a real challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing against
That'll move
Cejudo,
up.
but it's just one of those things that unless you have a spectacular, back and forth decision, match against him, it's his division right now. I mean, pound for pound, he is the best fighter on the planet. There's no question of this.
It's because he's defended that belt for what, a decade?
It seems like it. It seems ever since they came out. I mean, the closest one I know that came to beating him was Ian McCall, Uncle Creepy.
Right, yeah.
Way back when it was, I think, the end of the finals for who became the first flyweight champion.
Yes.
So, honestly, when you've had that much success and DJ has shown no sign of slowing down, I mean, it's his division until he loses.
No, because you look at his record, 27-2-1.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
And his losses were to Dominic Cruz at 135.
Right.
So at this weight class, he's damn near unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not to say it won't be an entertaining fight,
No.
but if you want me to make my early prediction, I think it's DJ's to lose.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't lost in Lord knows how long. I don't see him losing anytime soon.
And then in your main event,
Oh, boy.
TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt for the bantamweight title.
Friends turned enemies.
I tell you what, if you want your storylines, this has it all over the place.
The marketing for this fight is just brilliant.
Oh, it's gold. I mean, they did a quick interview segment during UFC on Fox 30, and it was gold. It was just, you got your trash talk build up. Garbrandt is not one to back down from microphone.
No.
And TJ is bringing it too. I mean, TJ has kind of taken up the role from Dominic Cruz of he wants to just beat everybody in Team Alpha Male.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This is going to be an entertaining fight. I know that last time this was very back and forth, and just TJ got him for the belt.
I'll say they don't call him Cody No Love Garbrandt for nothing.
No, definitely not. I mean, first off, when Cody beat Cruz, that was just stunning in its own right.
Yep.
And now with TJ in the mix too, because in my opinion, if TJ wins this one, you got to make the fight between him and Mighty Mouse.
Sure.
You got to, if TJ can cut to 125 and go down there. I know there was talk before and it just didn't happen for whatever reason. You got to make that fight. The UFC has to make that fight.
Right.
With Garbrandt, if he gets his belt back, there is, depending on how he does it. I mean, if it's a long drawn out decision, back and forth, a split decision by the judges, you can do an immediate rematch.
Sure.
That would make sense. I mean, there are some contenders coming up at 135, but if Garbrandt wins, I think depending on how the ending is, like I said, you got to make that immediate rematch.
Oh yeah.
But if TJ wins, boy, the only match you can make is him against Demetrius.
I'll say because I'm looking at the bantamweight division rankings as they stand on UFC.com. No one's jumping out like, oh yeah, they've had a good performance the last couple fights. I mean, you had Yuri Alcantara Thomas, Almeida, nothing's really jumping out.
Rafael dos Santos is arguably my guess for who would get it if it was against Garbrandt.
Probably.
I mean, that does make, against TJ, rather, if they don't want to have the super fight. That would make the most sense. I mean, he's been on a tear lately, too. So, I mean, I think that fight makes a lot of sense, or at least he's got to be in contention for it. I mean, depending on what they want to do for it. Because, like I said, after this fight, depending on how it ends.
Right.
Because that's the only thing. Because the first one was a quick knockout. And, I mean, you had arguably your two best strikers at that weight class going at it.
Oh, yeah.
So if it happens again, I mean, Pat, who are you taking in this one?
Oh, Lord. This one's kind of like a take a coin, flip it, and take a pick for me. I'm going TJ Dillashaw. Something about it, something speaking to me. Not quite sure what it is. Just a hunch.
The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm thinking about it. I got to go TJ, too.
I'll say, because I'm looking at the kind of tail of the tape of the two. They're near identical. Almost the same height, same weight, about the same reach, about the same leg reach. There's really no advantage in one way or the other.
No, but I think with Dillashaw, he's been around longer, and I think that he has more of a chip on his shoulder than Cody would. Because with Cody, there was so much hype after he beat Cruz that it was like, okay, this is the next, Anderson Silva. This is the next, the next dominant champion for the next, 10 years. When Dillashaw came in there, he came in saying, no, this is my time, and this is, I'm getting my belt back, and this is what I'm doing. And for him, it just makes a lot of sense, I guess, to get the, if he goes for the win, he's going to have just more of a chip there. And to see where he goes after that, like I said, the super fight is the only thing that makes sense to me. But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. We want to know what's your thoughts on this weekend's UFC action. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where
Coming back for segment number 3 on this week's ODPH. And Pad, you got some NFL news for us?
Yeah, of course, the NFL Hall of Fame ceremonies are this week, Thursday, August 2nd at 8 o'clock. You've got the Hall of Fame game against the Chicago Bears and the Baltimore Ravens. So it ought to be one if you've been needing that itch for football. You need to watch some football and watch some guys on the football field. Oh, here you go. Then you've also got the Hall of Fame induction ceremony that will take place on Saturday, August 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Going in this year's class, Robert Brazil, Bobby Beathard, Jerry Kramer, Brian Urlacher, Brian Dawkins, Randy Moss, Ray Lewis, and Terrell Owens.
Now, this is a stacked class if you've been watching throughout the years.
Let's say there's a couple of guys on there that would make any defense or offense, shake, and there's a couple of offensive guys on there that would make defenses shake.
Obviously, Brian Dawkins, longtime Philadelphia Eagle.
Yep.
And he was Weapon X. He was just one of the most hard-hitting safeties in the league.
Let's not forget what he did to Reggie Bush.
This is true.
Oh, Lord.
He gave him a welcome to the league that had never been seen before.
No.
And you take a look, Ray Lewis, the career is self-explanatory. Arguably one of, if not the greatest linebackers to ever play the game. The face and attitude of the Baltimore Ravens for many, many years.
Say what Derek Jeter was to the New York Yankees, Ray Lewis was to the Baltimore Ravens.
Without question. Him and Ed Reed established that fearsome defense down there.
Lord have mercy, Ed Reed on defense was just nigh unbeatable.
Right, but Ray Lewis, though, in his prime, was just arguably he would take over games himself.
I remember seeing the video. I think it was Chad Johnson. It was like a video from when Chad Johnson was playing, and he was going on a blocking route or something like that. He wasn't going to get open when he was with Cincinnati, and he went, and he goes into his route, and Ray Lewis just dump trucks him and just knocks him flat on his butt. And he gets back on the sidelines, and coaching says, like, you all right? He's like, yeah, Ray Lewis just hit me.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, Ray just ended on a high note too, winning the Super Bowl the year he went out to. So, obviously just legendary career. So, I mean, him getting to Canton was a no-brainer.
Yep.
Brian Urlacher, longtime Chicago Bear linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just one of the most fearsome players to ever play the game. And then you take a look at the offensive side of the ball, and Randy Moss,
Oh, boy.
one of the most controversial but yet productive wide receivers to ever play the game.
Very much a student of the game, studied a lot of film, produced a lot of numbers, also polarizing.
Yeah, very polarizing, and just honestly, it really kind of depends on, you know, what your take on him was. Because for me, it's like he did do some things that I guess ruffled a lot of feathers, maybe from traditional fans.
Straight cash, homie.
Yeah, but every time he showed up on the field, he just was such a dominant force. I mean, with Minnesota, him and Dante Culpepper starting out
Oh, man.
was incredible. But, I mean, the year that just stands out to me is, albeit though too short, but for me as a Bills fan, I was kind of happy to see that it was that short, was when he was with Tom Brady.
Oh, man. That first year he was with New England sticks out for me very much in my memory, simply because I remember that first game of the year against this is how vividly I remember it. First game of the year against the New York Jets, and it's like the first series of the game. And New England's got the ball, and Brady just throws the dime to Moss. He just drops it in there, and he just burns the Jets secondary.
Yeah, I mean, for him to have such a connection so quickly, I mean, with him and Brady and Belichick, that was almost like the perfect combination.
It was the strongest connection I think Brady had with the wide receiver since, you know, Deion Branch had left the New England Patriots, because I remember there being, I think it was a 60 Minutes segment they did where they were kind of talking about Brady and his relationship with Deion Branch, and it had been a couple of years when this aired since they'd played together, and like they went to run one of the old plays that they used to run together, and they audibled it. He didn't say a word. He just looked at him, and Branch goes, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Moss had just one of the most underrated football minds to ever play. He was just, you know, you want to talk about students of the game.
Yes.
Randy had such a high football IQ.
Well, and you look who he studied behind when he got to Minnesota, Chris Carter.
Yeah, I mean, he was mentored very well with Chris Carter. And just, I mean, to see how he take over games. And like I said, if you want to see, you know, proof of his career, I mean, you take a look at that Patriots season. That is the closest we've had to a perfect season since the Dolphins way back when. I mean, it just goes to show you what kind of impact he had.
I lost years off my life that season.
I mean, I think a lot of people did. I mean, that season was just so memorable for.
Say the Monday night game against the Baltimore Ravens stands out in my mind.
And who was he facing against? Ray Lewis.
Yep.
So I mean, just to tie it all back together, when you have that such elite competition facing each other, you just bring out the best in, you know, for the sport and, you know, just for the game itself.
Yep.
And then taking a look to Terrell Owens.
Boy, oh boy. One of the more colorful characters I think the NFL's ever seen.
Absolutely, but you can't deny his productivity.
No.
You can't. I mean, there's, you know, when we talk about controversial, I mean, it depends on your take on his personality. That he pretty much was a larger-than-life character.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, his attitude, he just was one of those more unique players. But you can't deny what he did on the field.
No.
There's no way you can. And I mean, he started out with San Francisco, and then when he went to Philadelphia.
That was crazy.
That was arguably one of the more crazier years, I think, of football that we've seen. Just with how he started out with Donovan McNabb, and then he broke his leg.
Yep.
But he came back.
Yeah, I remember that whole week leading up. Oh, there's no way Terrell Owens is going to play. He's got a broken leg.
Yeah, say what you will about what he did off the field, and just, you know, the interviews and the comments and the sound bites have been heard throughout the years. When he was on the field, he played. He balled out. I mean, however you want to define it, he played. And he had arguably one of the biggest competitive hearts.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, you could say what you want about, you know, stuff that happened in the locker room, stuff that happened in the interviews, whatever you want to hear, sound bites that are just you know, leaked out in stories. But he played with a broken leg. And like I said, I think he was at full speed and at 100%, the Eagles might have won that Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, easily.
I mean, and then to see where he went from Dallas there, too, it's like he's always been productive no matter where he's gone. And still to this day, I mean, he's one of the more polarizing characters when you talk about the NFL fans. Either people really love him or they really can't stand him.
Yeah, because for every touchdown highlight you see, there's the video of the other stuff for the controversies. I mean, the one that comes to mind is when he was with the 49ers, and it's in the game in Dallas, and he does the pose on the star.
I mean, yeah, when you talk about like the celebrations after touchdowns.
Oh man, him and Chad Johnson.
Chad Johnson, Joe Horn.
Yep.
I mean, the list goes on. That just really kind of put the celebration and dare I say, like the character into the players, so to speak. That these were not just nameless players on a field.
Right.
That you knew who T.O. was because you expected, okay, the minute he scored something, he was going to do something crazy.
Football fans and sports fans know a lot about a player based off their name. It says even more when you know a lot about a player just by their initials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So looking at it too, I know T.O. is not going to be in attendance for these ceremonies.
No.
He's, I believe, doing his own thing that weekend.
Yeah, he's throwing a party or VIP party this weekend at his alma mater in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, so he's not going to be in attendance. I believe this is the first time that there's been a living inductee that is not in attendance.
Yep.
But, who else but T.O. would do something like that? Just,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not that shocked by it because, hey, if players feel a certain way, then they're going to do their own thing.
Yep.
So it's just kind of one of the things. But congratulations to everybody who has been getting inducted this year.
Yep.
To the Hall of Fame. And then who we got on tap for next year?
Yeah, the next year's first ballot Hall of Fame candidates are rather interesting. A couple interesting choices here. Champ Bailey is going to be on the list for the first time. Tony Gonzalez will also be there. Ed Reed will be on there. Also will be Nnamdi Asomugha, Dallas Clark, London Fletcher, and Asante Samuel and Brian Waters, just to name a few.
It's going to be an interesting class next year. I mean, when you see the Hall of Fame game arrive, you know that football is officially back. The preseason is underway. Mm-hmm. The games are going to be starting, and you're going to see positions finally getting filled out. I believe all the number one draft picks, except I think one, have signed to their teams. I know Sam Darnold just signed to the Jets.
Yep.
So it's going to be something to watch. I mean, the offseason, where Des Bryant winds up, I know that's been a hot topic this weekend as well. So it's going to be fun to watch. So definitely keep your eye on the NFL preseason coming forward because a lot of action is going to be going down. Let us know what you think, though, of the NFL Hall of Fame inductees this year. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH. Pad, why don't you lead us off with that local minute?
Boy, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies are going to be a busy bunch of guys the next week or so. They're playing 7 games in 6 days.
Ouch.
Yeah, so they're playing 4 against Hartford. As we record, they're playing a doubleheader, one of which is scheduled. The other one is a makeup from the end of June. They're playing Hartford again on Wednesday and Thursday, and then they're playing Harrisburg Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All of the games are at home. Times and tickets are listed at bingrp.com. And then also got some Binghamton Devils news.
Oh, break it down.
Yeah, so the Binghamton Devils are looking for a new head coach after the New Jersey Devils have promoted the head coach from last year for the Binghamton Devils, Rick Kowalski, to their head coaching position up in the pro level.
Well, congratulations to him. Mm-hmm. So the Binghamton Devils will be looking for a new head coach for the upcoming season. Wow, hockey is just right around the corner.
Not far away.
I want to say it's like about 60 days away, something like that.
Something like that.
Amazing. I mean, it just goes to show you, how quick time flies. Mm-hmm. But we have the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, down at Nice Egg Stadium, so go check them out while the season is still going on. And then before you know it, it'll be time to get down to the arena to check out the Binghamton Devils.
Uh-huh.
Fun times in the good old 607. But to lead off those rounding the bases to take us home, more hockey news.
Okay.
Jerome Iginla, who is my favorite non-Ranger.
And that's saying a lot.
That is saying a lot because I actually have his Calgary jersey. Oh. That is how much of a fan I am of his.
Okay.
Announced his retirement this past week. So definitely has put in his time for the work. He's got to be a shoo-in for the Hockey Hall of Fame. 625 career goals and 1,300 points.
Let's say, how long did he play?
I believe the playing career was 96 started, and so it ended 2018. So if you're doing the math, I believe it was 22 seasons.
Which in hockey, that's impressive.
Oh, it is. But you know what? He was always one of those players that he had the goal-scoring ability of like a Crosby and Ovechkin, but he was not afraid to mix it up. He was a hard-hitting guy. He was never like the flashiest of players, but he was just somebody that would literally grind out wins with it. And like I say, the easiest like football comparison I have is like Hines Ward.
Okay.
That he was just a guy that, he was a bigger guy than Ward, but he was just a guy that would get on the ice and just really played the game with so much heart and passion, and just was so like a 5-tool athlete in the sport.
Yeah.
Just could do pretty much anything you asked him. And I know that he never won a Stanley Cup, which, it's such a hard thing to win. But I know that he did win the gold medal with Team Canada in the Olympics. So he's had an illustrious career. So, for me, it's heartbreaking because, like I said, he is my favorite player that is non-Ranger. So that is saying something. So, but, I got to say thank you to Jerome McGinley for a great career. You definitely have a fan here, and, good luck on the future endeavors.
Yep.
Pad, what you got?
A couple more baseball news. A little breaking news as we record. The Red Sox have placed Chris Sale on the 10-day disabled list for shoulder inflammation. And then the Yankees have sent home J.A. Happ after he went to New York Presbyterian Hospital. He's contracted a mild case of hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Isn't that same thing Syndergaard had?
Yep.
All right, something is not good going down in the city. I
get it's the city, and that's
so
prone to happen when you put, 7 million people in
but
that
it's
close
so
proximity.
weird to just recently, because you don't hear about that often. But
No.
Wow, this.
Yeah, a little crazy, but hey, he'll get back soon.
Oh, absolutely. So be something to watch.
Yep.
Sports is a weird thing to cover, but hey, we like talking about it.
And of course, the Yankees do have a 4-game set against the Boston Red Sox this weekend in Boston, so big implications there.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime the Yankees and the Red Sox get together, it's always must-watch TV.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, that's all we have for you for this week. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.
Instead of making promises in the dark, why don't we just play our part? 'Cause I'm all alone and you're all alone tonight. Act like lovers, but we're not even friends. You can see the end, but it feels good to pretend. What does it matter?